and when you convert that to SGD, it's not. Yeah. So
I understand what you're saying. It's one of those things where you've got to try and position yourself correctly at the start. A lot of it depends on how specialized you are and how much that your skills needed. Because if it's not needed as much and you're more likely to come here because it's a good job, then they have leverage, right? Okay. So it depends on who's got leverage, right? So if you're a big data guy and there's no one here, well, it doesn't matter what currency you're getting money in, you tell them what you want and they'll pay you. On the other side, you know, it's a bit, I know what you're saying and I understand that, and it is hard to rectify that, but it is one of those things where you want to try and position yourself initially, or whichever agency you work with, and say, well, this is what is the market rate. And most agencies, you know, we would definitely, for example, if we're presenting anyone, would be like, you've got to be fair, right? You've got to be fair to the person you're hiring, because, and that is why people leave, right? So people move jobs because they're underpaid, and they feel underpaid, so they move jobs more often than they would normally. If you're paid well, and you know you're paid well, you're more likely to stay in that job because you know that this is a good rate, it's market rate. So with market rate, to your point, 70% of people will unfortunately pay you according to your last salary. Because, so say it's 20% market rate, 20% hike, right? So, but you're worth 40% more. It's not the business who don't want to pay you the 20%. Unfortunately, that's where HR come in. And HR have to have a sort of banding internally, transparency, where they can't be seen to say, oh, I will give, you know, what's your name, sorry?
Kim Song.
We give Kim Song 40%, but we give Steve 20%. Because, you know, even though Kim Song go 40%. So they've got to try and keep an internal leverage, you know. But in saying that, I know people who've gotten 40–50% salary raises because once again it comes down to what do you do? You know, it's one of those things. That's why I say 70%. Because 30% of clients will pay you. They will pay you whatever it is, or whatever you want. So if you're in the AML compliance space at the moment, it's a hint for you. You know, that's paying anything.
The trick with AML and compliance region, right, is the hot topic now. But the challenge is they are looking for people with experience. So if you enter in as a fresh person, even though you work in financial services for the last 5–6 years, it's not contributing towards the requirement.
So if you worked on a compliance project, say an IT compliance project or a regulating project where you were doing, like, say, NOCOM or whatever, data card implementation or something like that, then that would definitely help you with that, I think. Yeah, no, I'm just saying as an example, you know, I mean, but you can use that and, you know, but yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things.
You're making the difference that there can be a distinction between your cumulative years of experience and the years of experience in a particular area that they're looking for.
Because stuff like AML and KYC, I believe that the basic principles doesn't change across the years. So if you have been in financial services long enough, you know what is Chinese wall, you know what is KYC. But to actually perform the specialized job, you don't have the relevant experience.
That's right.
That's what I'm getting at. So it's interesting, but it's quite hard to get.
It's sometimes people, you know, you need to take a step back to get there.
But
you know what I mean? And people don't sometimes do that because you don't want to take a pay cut. You don't want to go from an AVP to associate. You know, all those things, right? So, but you've got to weigh out the big picture, right? So,
but you're raising a different issue. You're raising the difference between, am I familiar with X? Is X being like any money laundering or something like that, something that I've had to work with, versus are you an expert in X? Can you lead the team in X? Can you be the one who makes the decisions in X? And you're saying, yes, there's a clear difference between those cases.
Yep. And
there's a clear difference between the bargaining power of those cases.
Right, yeah.
I mean, naturally so. But the thing about it is they say, be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. If you position yourself as an expert in, you know, AML, then when you get on site, you're going to be expected to know how to make those decisions. And if it's clear you don't, you know, it's going to be disaster.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I think you've got more of a chance, though. You know, if you're working in, even if if it's technology, you know, I think if you're working, the key is to get into a project that is working on an aim. Key is to work on an AML project. That's my advice. If you can get in there, depending on your ability, obviously, you will be able to move up the business. You know, I think that's what you need. Most people don't know how to do that, and they stick with the technology route, and then they get caught in that. You know, so you're always going to be a technology person, you know, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But if you want to go into compliance, compliance is not technology. Compliance is compliance. So you know, so you've got to, you know, that's my advice. You know, if you want.
Just a last question for experienced people. What is your advice on the format of CV? Because if you go by chronological order, maybe 10 or more years experience, you're way too much.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
so what is the advice? What is this format?
I would
preferable?
Sure. That's a really good question. I would sort of normally not put more than 10 years of experience in a CV. You know, I mean, if I'm speaking to someone who's 50, for example,
yeah,
a lot of experience. You know, but not a lot of it is relevant to the current job. Okay? So when you started working in 1980, you know, your hiring manager today is not really, he's not interested in what you did in the 80s.
Do you look at the last maybe 5 years, 10 years,
Correct.
or
Exactly.
what if his experience there's a gap? Maybe certain relevant one was not in the chronological order.
So depending on what job he's going for, right? So I would also look at the relevant job experience. So if he's going, you know, if he's applying for a project management role to deliver Microsoft Dynamics, for example, and he hasn't done it in his last 2 years, but he did it before that, that's what we'd be looking at, you know. But then I would expect him or the agency who's presenting him to make that known to the client, saying, so you know, look at this experience. That's what's relevant. But yeah, but you're right. I mean, I don't want to read. Do you want to read?
Yeah.
If you're hiring someone, you want to read about what they did 10 years ago?
I've seen some resumes that really thick, it's like too much.
Exactly, right? So you're like, you know what I mean? So which is why hiring managers don't like to read resumes. You know, they're like, so I keep it sort of, you know, 10 years old.
All right, thank you so much.
No worries, no pleasure. Thank you.
We have our Vice Provost and Dean of School of Information Systems, our other Steve.
All right.
To actually
Name of
present.
champions.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thanks. And for our MITB students, this is sort of part of the professional enhancement enrichment. So we hope you found this very useful as an integral but sort of extended part of the curriculum experience. And there probably, how many people are here who have nothing to do with SMU? You just saw the seminar. All right, and you just sort of saw it on the web.
I received emails from SMU.
Okay, and you wherever you got it. All right. So you came, and we're glad you came. Welcome. We're an institution that sort of opens its doors for things like this. Get to know what the School of Information Systems does. Get to know what our MITB program does, because we do things that are sort of deep at the intersection of Infocom in the context of the business setting, really in ways that few places in the world really do. So get to know us and plug into the ecosystem. We want to thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve.
I have to remember to give you this. It's not for me, but
Well, yeah, thank you. We can share it. Thanks for the invite. No worries about it. Have a good weekend. Yes, that's fine. Thank you, and cheers. Got a long weekend. Do you work weekends? No. Do you work? Yeah.
well, you know, we have classes. All the curriculum is at evenings and weekends, right? So people sort of have to rotate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.